that time of week once more for Muji and Dan to give you the comic store. It's time to open up those bags and boards, fans. Welcome to Get Your Pulls.
Welcome to Get Your Pulls, number 93. It's Mooj.
It's Dan.
It's not Todd.
Yeah. Todd will be joining us later tonight for our viewing of X-Men Days of Futures Past, which will be right back here next week for a grand official Getchyapulls review.
Not to be confused with DC's current event, Days of Futures End.
Oh.
Totally unrelated. But, yeah, pumped up, man. This is, number 2 of 3 of big, or number 3 of 4, actually, of big comic book movies for the summer. I mean, the summer is barely underway, and we're almost 3/4 of the way through the big comic releases.
Yeah, we already got Cap, we got Spider-Man. Now we get the X-Men. My personal favorite comic franchise. Got a lot of hype, got a lot to live up to. Early reviews are very positive, so I'm very, very excited.
Currently higher than Cap on Rotten Tomatoes, which is nuts. So yeah, super pumped, man. I mean, love First Class, though. So, you know, it seems right to have high expectations for this one, you know, even before, like, all the good reviews. I mean, they just came off of, you know, what was, you know, easily their best since X-Men 2, but, you know, in some ways, their best X-Men film they've made, so. But yeah, pumped. So we'll be talking all about it next week. So that'll be cool.
Oh, yes.
A little bit of news going on today. It's the big news. Edgar Wright off Ant-Man, which a lot of people are like, don't freak out. Everybody's, of course, going to be like, oh, he's off. It's going to ruin the movie. I think it still might be a good movie, but it just seems strange that a guy's been working on this movie off and on for 6 years and been in production on it now for months and months, and it comes out July of next year, so, you know, it's not like they have time to get another director, kind of get a vision. I mean, they're just going to plug a guy in and say, make it. Because, I mean, they got to start filming. That thing's supposed to start filming within the next couple of weeks. So that's a pretty crazy little shakeup, considering, like, they really hyped the fact that, you know, they got him to do a movie and then leftover creative differences, so.
It is, could the mighty Marvel movie series hit a bump in the road with that one because of the creative cluster? We'll see.
Yeah, you never know. We could see. Yeah, I mean, because right now it's, you know, with Guardians, looks like it's going to be good based on the trailers.
Oh, yes. Guardians just looks magnificent.
Yeah, it looks really good. Trailers can lie, but it looks really good. That's the crazy thing on trailers, though, man. I mean, when's the last time for, like, a movie you wanted to see that the trailer, like, they're really, like, working on comic book movies. I mean, it's really, like, it's been a while since the trailer, like, didn't come out. Even on movies that, like, we both were like, who knows if that's going to be any good. You know, the trailers, like, they all look great. It's a lot easier to make. That is something at least we've learned in the past few months. Because even like Man of Steel, good, not nearly as good as the trailer kind of made it out was going to be. Cap lived up to it. Wolverine, actually probably better than the trailer. But, you know, it is a Spider-Man, worse than the trailer. You know, it has kind of been a thing to learn. It is a lot easier to make like an A+ trailer than an A+ movie. But Guardians does look great. I would be shocked if it's like anything less than at least just, you know, enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm quite excited for that one.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be pretty funny. And also it looks like it's going to be funny like in the context of it's supposed to be funny, not like why is there a promo going on there in this battle scene. But anyways,
right.
So that's really big news that happened today. That's pretty crazy. I mean, that just happened a couple hours ago, so I don't even know how like a lot of people are reacting, but it's pretty nuts. A couple of small comic book news. I mean, there's like a bunch of writers changing on books. It's all Jerry Dugan's going to be taking over Hulk, which Mark Waid says, you know, is for him to spend more time on Daredevil and his Thrill-Bent books on the website that he owns. But I think everybody knows that a lot has to do with the fact that people just kind of hated the book. So that's, you know, I enjoyed it like decently at first when it came out, but it's one of those books that like I like the general idea. You know, it's like we're gonna separate Hulk from Banner. They're two different people, but it didn't translate as good as like the idea was. Like it was decent, but it wasn't like the level of quality like you kind of expect from Mark Waid. And then, it slowly, the sales have been dropping, and they relaunched it because they thought it was going to kind of save it, and it, wasn't the big, huge box office hit they thought they were going to be. And old Dugan, going Nova, he's on Deadpool. He's becoming a key player at Marvel right before our eyes. So
Yeah, always nice to see guys climb up the ranks, and he certainly has. He was a relative unknown before Deadpool, and he'd done some stuff, but not a lot.
yeah,
But really rocketed up the Marvel ladder there, and looks to keep on climbing.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see, DC canceling a bunch of books. I guess making room for all these weekly series to get down to like their normal amount. Also getting room for some other things because they've announced some other things that are coming. Like we know there's going to be a Booster Gold book that's coming because there's a Futures End title for it. There's a few other single books like about to pop up. I mean, Aquaman and the Others has been going for a couple months. There's that book Didio's writing. So there's a few new books popping up to go along with weeklies. And some of these...
A lot of weeklies.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there's going to be 3 weeklies, which is crazy. I mean, that's... If your big whole thing is like, I got to keep up with like the ongoings of the DCU, I mean, that's, $9 just in those weekly books. Like $9 a week just to keep up with those 3. So I mean, Batman's been great. I mean, it's totally worth the 12. And then I've, heard pretty good things about Futures End. I guess the Earth 2 book is probably the least. I mean, unless you're really into like the Earth 2 book itself, then that's probably one that I'm guessing people aren't just going to take a flyer on unless they already read Earth 2. So I guess it probably won't do as good as the others. But I mean, some of these books I'm sure will be relaunched. I mean, they're canceling Superboy. I'm sure somebody's going to come in with a fresh take on it, relaunch it. That's a book that seems to always be going. Birds of Prey, I'm going to guess we'll get like, I'm guessing they're going to be like a bunch of new, because they're doing the new Teen Titans. They'll probably do a new Birds of Prey. That'll probably be their next little thing of New 52 is much like Marvel Now, there'll be an all new, in Marvel Now, they'll just have new, whatever these books that are launching that are coming up. So, and then there's a few that, it was like, I can't believe that's still been going, like the Pandora,
Trinity of Sin that I thought was a tie-in to the Trinity War event.
It started out, and then they kept them going. Yeah, Trinity of Sin, Pandora, and Phantom.
This wasn't a miniseries.
Yeah, that and Phantom Stranger going, and then also one that's surprising that's gone this long because I don't think it ever did that great in sales. But Stormwatch is. I swear they've announced it canceled before, but they finally officially announced it. It's still going.
I can't believe that.
No, I mean we shop and every week. I mean we get our pulls, but we look at the rack. I had no idea that that's been up there once a month. I thought it was gone a long time ago, but they finally announced the cancellation of it. But a lot of these books, some of those, since the original books, I mean not a lot of things have like hung on of the 52. I mean there's maybe 5 or 6 books that are really come on later that have stuck, but I mean, a lot of these books, though, I mean, you're even surprised. I mean, when New 52 started, some of these even lasted. I mean, who thought Stormwatch would get 32 issues? I mean,
that's crazy.
Without a lot of those books are just the thing, man. And unless they get unless a writer or an artist that is just catching fire gets on it, and that's kind of the thing that catches fire, and kind of makes them like the popular writer artist that they're going to become. A lot of those fringe books just have trouble staying, or unless you bring in like a really like box office name. I mean, if you brought Grant Morrison back to write Stormwatch, you could probably relaunch it and sell it really well for a while. But without something like that, then it's it's not. Which is something that Marvel definitely does better than DC.
Which is weird because I think Stormwatch was originally like one of those Image properties that Marvel acquired.
Yeah, I believe that Stormwatch, I think, may be wrong, but I think a couple of those characters are from Jim Lee's imprint. And then they just added some like other people, like bring the characters in the DCU. They added Martian Manhunter to it and kind of
he was in the first
to bridge the team.
Of it, yeah.
There's a couple more of those books though that like were actually pretty popular that people are waiting on, that they're holding on to bring back. A couple of Jim Lee's books. There's been a rumor that Wildcats would come back for a while now. But I think that's one of those things where it only works if he draws it. So who knows if that'll ever happen. But yeah, a bunch of book cancellations, but a bunch of new books coming. I think that's the thing with Marvel and DC. They're always going to publish a certain amount of books. So, if it's one of the books you really like, it's a bummer. Luckily, none of these are on our pull list. But then, even, if it is, then hopefully something new will pop up, take its place. Just like my books, my pull list is, gotten way bigger than I noticed. I was adding up my books for next month. I think I get 26 over the course of the month, and I was just thinking, I was like, damn.
I mean, look at this stack I got here for the last 2 weeks, and I got like 10 next week.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, that Batman Eternal, it gives you an extra 4 a month, so that's a pretty big one. But yeah, there's also a transition. I got a couple books that are gonna end that are just having.
Yeah. For example, I have the last issue of JLA here and the first issue of Justice League United.
Yeah, they have doubled up on that stuff too. I didn't notice there are a couple books like that I was like, now wait a minute, this is supposed to take the place of this. Like, and I think next week or the week after I get that final Nightwing, and I think Grayson's like a week or two after. So it's like they stick in one more on you, but. That's the way it goes. Also, they raise them $1 on all those two, BTW, to $3. Of course, the last issue of Nightwing, $3 the whole run, and $4 to find out how it ends, motherfuckers. But, yeah, I guess that's really all the big news that really happened.
Cool. Just no official back to the long box, but I know we've probably both been doing some reading.
Yeah, I mean, mine mainly is like I'm almost done with that Fear Agent. I said before, and I've finished the main story, but there's some extra stuff in there, so I'm on it. So I'm at Fear Agent Volume 2, probably even better than the first. It's really great. You get even deeper on the story and the characters. And the first is awesome. The second even feels like more Remender-y. Like it is, there's a lot of like speeches given and like a lot of like real world stuff talked about, which is...
A lot of corpses being paraded around.
I mean, you can't have a corpse... a Remender book without a corpse on display. If Remender ever decides...
And some sort of alternate timeline.
That's very true, and there's 1,000 of those in this book, so that definitely happens. I think if Remender... I think if I remember reading something correctly on him, he might have been in a band before, but if he ever starts a band, then it's got to be... And I know he loves punk. It's got to be called... Corpse on Display. That's
he came out of the LA punk scene. He was doing like the album art for like No Effects and a bunch of those really popular. I mean, punk really wasn't my scene, but as a metal kid, you had some friends that were in the punk. There was some cross section. Yeah, you had Motorhead and Slayer that pretty much everybody liked in metal and punk, and so you could bond on those.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a pretty big album artist for punk rock, and then just got into comics. And who'd have known the guy's a hell of an artist and a writer. I mean, I'm really excited to meet him.
A lot of these guys in comics are like so random. You got Jason Aaron is, working on a, digging ditches and working on a truck. Driving a truck for years. And,
working in a porn warehouse.
Yeah, working in a porn warehouse, and in his 30s becomes hugely popular. I mean, Remender was doing comics for a really long time, but had a bunch of other shit jobs. Just read a thing on Latour that was awesome. I think it was from like a local Charlotte paper, but it's been making the webs. But I know a lot of these guys are just kind of going along at life, and then now they're these providing pop culture to the masses. It's really crazy.
Yeah, it's really awesome, actually. I'm a big supporter of all those guys. Like, they really speak to me more than a lot of other comic writers do. Remender and Aaron in particular, but Latour is quickly creeping up on my favorites list.
Yeah, and it also makes sense Latour and Aaron being from the South, us being from the South. There's just some things, that...
There's a bit of an identification.
Completely click, yeah. It's like the way you view things. Like, it's a weird thing, too, about living in the South, is you find out that there's a huge portion of people that live in the South that feel like as weird about certain things as you do. You don't just all get together to talk about it, and then you can look at it two ways. Like, it really brings out the people that are just kind of, Southern Bastards calls them Southern Bastards, which is a great name, but just your prototypical redneck, small-minded people. It really, shows them to you, puts a spotlight on them, and it also puts a spotlight on the fact that there's probably more people that are like us, but just aren't the ones that get the attention that live around here. Like it's, it's like this weird, crazy combination where there are completely crazy backwoods people, and then there are people that if you transplanted them into like New York or LA or something would fit perfectly right in, and they're all in the same little goddamn towns. It's really weird.
It's quite fucked up, but really big fans of all of those guys. Like Remender, I don't think really gets the love he deserves. I mean,
I think he might now. I mean, his book, I think the sales show that he does. I mean, Uncanny Avengers is like a great hit, and Black Science is a huge hit. So I think if he hasn't, then over the past few months, then he's up there.
Yeah, we're going to HeroesCon, by the way, so we'll have a full report of that coming up in late June. That's pretty much the premier like hardcore comic book fandom con that you go to?
For anywhere, especially the East Coast and the Southeast especially. I know there's a couple. I think Emerald City does a good job of getting like a ton of creators up there, but there's also it's another too where you find out there's actually like a a good little comic book community over in Charlotte, and the people that run this con actually just run a comic book store over there that is a big popular one that people make stops on, so. But I think there's good cons like Emerald City because a lot of people live up in Portland and Seattle.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is anywhere that's like doable for us to go to on a drive. This is by far the closest one, and it's definitely and it's completely just geared towards the creators.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's like I do Dragon Con every year. I'm a performer on Dragon Con. Like it's an awesome con, but it's not like they've got some cool stuff for comic book fans, but that's a very small
But it's not
part
the draw.
of it.
Yeah.
No, it's not the draw at all. That's the draw. It's like for the hardcore, like actual comic book fans of like the current scene of comics and what's coming out.
Yeah, I mean the reason we're going, Remeter's there, Fraction and Kelly Sue are there.
Jason
Latour's there. Matteo Scalera that draws Black Science is going to be there. Sada Ribic, who's the best cover guy in the biz and great. He's going to be there.
So Mark Texiera is going to be there.
Yeah, we missed out. Last year Jason Aaron was there and Charlie Soule, but they're both absent this year. But, I mean, that's just the kind of list you get there. Mark Wade's going to be there.
Yep.
He's announced. That's gigantic. Plenty of other people, too.
My dog is having a nightmare. Josephus, wake up!
He's also got the look of death in his eye. That was a good nightmare. Yeah, now we know how he feels about Mark Wade. And then we got a bunch of people. I mean, not Jeff Lowe, but Tim Sale's going to be there. Raphael Albuquerque's going to be there. A little American Vampire signed. Actually, probably just try to get a sketch or something off that motherfucker.
Yeah, I did see that Albuquerque was going to be there. That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, it's a great list. Like tons of writers and probably even more current like artists are going to be there. So it's really great. I mean, yeah, outside of like Tinian's going to be there. Outside of like 3 or 4 guys that I would really like to see, they're like current big names in comics. Like right now, out of your like big guys you'd really like to see, you'd like to see Aaron, you'd like to see Charlie Soule and Snyder. Those are really like, and I mean, there's more, but those are like the big 3 that are missing. But then you add, I mean, you've got like Wade and Wade, Fraction, Remender. That's a pretty big, equally big thing. And I mean, you're not going to get Jeff Johns outside of like a giant one or.
No, they pretty much got like all the Image All Stars except for Aaron and.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got a ton. And they got a ton more.
Kirkman.
They got a ton more than that, man. I mean, if you live somewhere in the southeast, if you're on the HeroesCon website, you can check it out. Like there's a giant list of hundreds of people that are going to be there. So.
Come find Dan and Muji. We'll be around.
We'll be there. We'll be marks, just getting some things signed, trying to make some conversations.
Yeah, man. I can't wait, dude. Like, I don't get to do this
Maybe
often.
Make a friend.
Because I fucking, in wrestling, you got to be all business. Like, I've done a million shows with guys I grew up idolizing, but you can't play that hand, unless you look like a fool. But here, that's what we're paying
especially
to do.
Backstage at WrestleMania.
Yeah. BT Dub.
Yeah, by the way. If you see a famous celebrity walking through with his entourage, don't step in front of them all to shake their hand, or else Stone Cold Steve Austin will shake your head at you, and I'm sure in his head, talk about how big of a mark you are.
Which is funny. If
he would have had a podcast 3 years ago, that would have been on there.
Well, if you listen to the last Midnight Black Mass episode that's been posted, I'll be getting up to more of them soon. I've just had some really shitty luck in real life, but I'm not going to talk about that here. I mean, like shit's good, just mainly like health issues with important family members I care about, and that's really a big bummer.
Yeah, we don't want to make this a depression podcast.
Yeah, but, like, fucking, I definitely plan on it.
Yeah, we'll be getting much talked about job Mooch been talking about for months actually finally starts in a week, so Mooch will get funded, so we haven't forgotten, the Potty Huber website will get to a good place at some point.
Yeah, but
we'll have the money to pay for it, so we'll have more updates and regular Midnight Black Mass and other pods that have been on the Potty Huber YouTube page. It'll be, it'll be way more streamlined once, so I can pay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got off the subject. I'm bad about that. What I was saying is, on the last Midnight Black Mass, I was talking to Adam Jacobs, and I told a story of when I punched the wrong guy, and coincidentally, this WrestleMania story is about the same guy.
The karma finally came around to where you could finally look yourself in the mirror and be like, That's okay. He deserved to get punched. He got punched 4 years too early, but he deserves to get punched, so it's okay. But yeah, so yeah, that's it. That's back to long box, which just turned into back to the dick sucking the people that we like in comics and talking about wrestling, as keeps happening all the time. But yeah, we'll get into some pulls. 2 weeks worth of pulls, so we'll try to speed through a few of these, and also we haven't traded pulls, so
spoiler free.
We'll go a little spoiler free on some of them, the ones that need it. American Vampire #3 from the second cycle. It was really good. It was as good as every American Vampire issue is. It was great. We got to see the Gray Trader pop back up again. He seems like he's going to be a real bitch to deal with. So that happened. You saw in the last couple issues what was going on with Skinner, where he got abducted. He had to tell the story what the hell happened to him, and it's really crazy. So very good-ish. Saga finally back after taking some time off. Chapter 19, it's good. They've skipped a few months, so the little baby, it's not really a baby, she can talk a little bit, and it's just like a little, just, toddler words, but she's not like a little baby that needs to be coddled anymore. She's a few months old, so they've skipped a timeline, I think like 6 months or something, maybe, if I remember correctly, from reading it 2 days ago. But read a lot of comics. But it's good. You can see some awesome stuff. See, Alana has a job on the new planet that they're on, where she's does live action, it shows people are watching her from home, on TV and stuff, but it's like home theater, basically. It's exactly like it, where she's acting with this guy on stage, and it's live, and people are watching at home with their own personal headsets, but she can hear them reacting like they're in the theater, and then you look out in the theater, and there's nobody fucking there. They're just kind of acting, so it's a weird futuristic version, so that's pretty cool. And then at the end, you get kind of a bombshell dropped on you on the future of her and Marco, and what's going to happen with them down the line. So it's pretty crazy-ish. And then Velvet, #5, the end of the first arc. Not really. It's kind of the end, I guess, of the first part of the first arc.
Right. Probably the first trade.
It'll be the first trade, and it is a point to where, kind of a small bit of the story that's been going on concludes, but it's obviously just to, to set up the next issue. But it was really good. It's really great. If you love Cap the Winter Soldier, if you thought it was great, then the movie, then Brubaker and Epting, who did the comic, do this, and it's feels the same. It's a little bit, more, it would be rated like a soft R, where, Captain America was PG or PG-13. But it feels the same, so it's a great book if you like that. It's a really awesome spy novel. You get a little bit more history on Velvet, so it's pretty cool. And it's one of those books that is in the top of there's not many books that there's not really books that look better than it. There's this one level that some books hit of how awesome the artwork is, and the combination of the art, and also the really good colors too, which is I've noticed in a lot of the books I really like. You look, and a lot of them have the same colors. But it's a great one, and this is a great, like I said, end to the first little story, so jump on that.
And Sons of Anarchy #9 from Boom Studios continues to be a great companion to the television show. If you're a fan, I still recommend you pick this up. This is another between seasons issue. This one flashes back a little bit to when Opie was still alive. Spoilers.
Yeah.
But, and so it's the first time they were in lockup. And there's a little war with the Russians on the side, some of the shit that happened between the seasons that you didn't really get to see. So
that's cool. I hope that book keeps going, because I know they made it ongoing, but I saw it had a pretty big drop in the issues it sold. I think a lot of people, because it was a mini, thought it ended, so they forgot. They didn't pick it up. So we'll see if it jumps back up in popularity, because it was selling pretty good next issue. Because it just seemed like a bunch of people just forgot. They said it was a pretty steep, an irregularly steep decline, because I think people were
it must be.
Oh, it's over. Because they'd announced it as a mini-series.
If I didn't have it on my pull list, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, you just showed up and
oh, it's going again. Oh, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm a giant Sons of Anarchy fan.
Yeah.
As attributed to the hat that sits on top of my bald-ass head.
Yeah.
So.
One last season. That's something to look forward to pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm
Summer
gonna
show.
be fucking real bummed when that's over.
Yeah, now with the decline of True Blood and some of the other
Well,
things.
True Blood's over after this season too. It's done.
Yeah, I was like more the decline of just how good the show is, but that used to be like the go-to for like 3 years. That was the go-to summer show, and then and you had like Entourage was for a minute, and now Sons is definitely the go-to summer programming.
It
It's
doesn't really come back till August.
That's summer.
I mean,
A lot of stuff doesn't come until late September, early. It's done before Christmas. It's completely done with the run.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But anyhow, and then moving on to Image, The Walking Dead, 127, A New Beginning. Crazy, crazy time lapse.
Time lapse.
Look
Yeah.
at.
It happened. I told you I have an evil theory in this. It does definitely make sense for the story because I think a lot of people lost like a lot of the popularity. I mean, the book has stayed popular, but a lot of the people felt bored by the last time they were really kind of setting up shop and
They
establishing
had
a
to
settlement.
rebuild, yeah.
Yeah, so this time they skipped over it. I also have this crazy idea in my head that it's also part of a plan that they don't want to recast Carl in the show, so it makes sense because I mean they're really only, a season and a half behind, like the events of the book, really.
Right.
Because I mean they're not going to show that really long rebuilding period on the show, probably. So they're not that far behind. So it also makes sense to where now on the show when Chandler Riggs is like, "Hey Rick, what's going on?" They're gonna be like, "It'll be in line with the comic."
Yeah, that's a good idea. Good idea to cover their bases. And at first, I didn't really know what to think of it, to be quite honest.
You had to read a few pages to figure out, like, to kind of get in your head, like, what was going on. And then the letters Kirkman actually, says on there that they've jumped time.
But you really see, like, where everybody's starting to find their role in the community. Like, since they've been at it a while, everybody's pretty well got a stable spot. Like, Jesus has really stepped up to become a leader.
Yeah, they've got separate settlements. You see, they're thriving. Rick's kind of taking Negan's system of everybody kind of living in different settlements and doing what they can do, but then actually running it efficient to where there's the 3 different places. There's the hilltop, the kingdom, and then where Rick and them live.
I don't know, Alexandria.
Alexandria, I think, is where they're at. So yeah, you get to see that, and that's all cool. So you get to see just an up-to-date on everything, and then, on the last page,
Rick's
spoilers.
got a hook.
Rick's got a hook. You also get to see a big change in the character, too, on Rick. He's got a new look, so that's a new fig.
Yeah, he looks old as shit.
Another new move. Yeah, Rick now has grown his beard out.
And shaved his head.
And shaved his head shorter, so new look for an action figure. And he's, like, having trouble walking around, so you can really see, like, that door where if shit got really bad again, like, Rick might actually be at risk. I've never believed before they're going to kill Rick off, but now they've got him all broken down from all this fighting and getting older, and like the things started to add up to where he's got the hook and he's walking around, having trouble walking around.
Oh yeah, he's in bad shape. I mean,
and
these are permanent injuries.
Yeah, and that's going on. Carl's hitting puberty. Somebody shows him some boobs.
And he's got a puka shell necklace made out of zombie teeth, which made me laugh.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I guess in the apocalypse, man, whatever you got to find for like a teen heartthrob, if he's got one eye and has killed a bunch of people, I guess he'll work.
I love that he wears sunglasses with one lens on his fucked up missing eye, and then he's taking the lens out where his good eye is. So
Yeah.
he's really making a statement there.
Yeah, he really is. I don't even want to think about what teen fashion would become in the apocalypse. It would just be terrible. But it's all going pretty good, and the book seems pretty cool, and you're like, oh, things are going good, and then, of course, you get to that last couple pages and find out that there's still a little shit brewing. It's been, I think it's been 2 years they've jumped in time, isn't it?
Yes.
And then you find out, then you get to see a big old straggly Negan, spoilers, who's still locked up in jail. They've just been keeping him in prison the whole time, but you find out that him and Carl are buds, and he's been talking to Carl, so that's going to end up fucking things up at some point, because he's, Carl, one of, Carl's go-to advice guys, even though, Carl tells him he still wants to kill him, but he's his buddy, so, that's going to end... It's going to end bloodily for somebody or multiple people at some point.
And we got the nice preview for the next Robert Kirkman book in the back of that, Outcast.
Yeah, that's another one that I've added to my pull list that is about to pop up. That and Cal are both about to pop onto the pull list new in the next few weeks. Saw a couple or two. I'm just like, I can't get any more. I saw that the Wicked and the Divine looks very tempting.
Who's that?
It's what's the guys that do Young Avengers or did Young Avengers for a while?
Jamie McKelvey.
It's McKelvey and is it Gillum?
Yeah, Kieran Gillen.
Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, their little team, which apparently they've worked on other stuff before that. They've kind of like known for that, but the premise is pretty good. The premise on it is that I think it's like every 90 years the gods come down from heaven and inhabit the body of like Americans, and in this one they've inherited like pop stars. So like the gimmick of the book, kind of the backdrop is like a lot of the really famous people in time that were just able, and some of them were bad. Like, so the idea that maybe Hitler was actually Satan, and that's who he decided to jump into his body. But the idea is that a lot of the people who just were popular or magnetic beyond belief and was unexplainable, the explanation is that an actual god jumped in their body and decided to live in it. But I think like the catch on it is that once the god jumps in their body, they die a couple years later. Like a lot of the most famous people ever, their runs aren't very long. Some of those famous musicians, they got a couple years and they die. Or, the famous like political people, they rise up and then it's pretty soon that they all die. So it looks really cool and looks really interesting, but I gotta take a time out on adding books for now. It's got a lot.
Fair enough.
I'm starting to where 6 is a small week. It's starting to happen where I'm like, oh, I got 6 this week, and that used to be, oh man, I got 6 this week. So, but yeah.
Fair enough. On to Marvel.
Yes, Marvel. We got some all new X-Men, number 27. And it's good. I think we talked about last week. It's been a real refresher with the original X-Men hanging out with Cyclops and his team. It's like added a whole bunch of new stories and new things that they can really do with the characters. So it's continuing the ongoing story with the X-Men of the future. We thought it was over, but it's not. We still have 3 generations of X-Men running around the planet, but it's all new is still, it's very interesting once again.
Yeah, and staying in the X universe, we got Uncanny X-Men number 21. Really enjoying Bendis' run on this. Another great issue. The last time we saw him, we had the crazy interaction between Jean Grey and Cyclops. And now we've also got Chris Bachalo back on the book, so it kind of has that Wolverine and the X-Men feel on the other side. But right now here, we're really getting into the thick of this story with Mystique and the Brotherhood and the mutant growth hormone. And Magneto finally finds out what the fuck's going on.
MGH.
And he's not happy. And he finds the Blob fucking trying to get his fix by sneaking in and fucking stealing Dazzler's blood. And it ain't pretty for him.
You don't want to fuck with Jason Statham Magneto.
No.
He's not a man to be trifled with.
He was quite fucking angry.
Yeah, I can't wait till he turns full on heel again.
Yeah,
at some point,
coming.
It's going to happen. And it's going to be great when he does it.
It's coming. I think this whole thing with him and the Brotherhood is he's getting his house in order, getting ready to take back over.
Yeah.
Like
he's looking around and being like, I can't believe this once great organization that I ran has come to this.
Yeah, that I do believe is what's happening. And then also, of course, we had the conflict with S.H.I.E.L.D. Yet again rears its ugly head. They come to the Scott Summers School and fire more missiles on the school, though someone's taking control. At the end, we find out who it is, but their identity is not revealed, so a new villain coming in here is pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty-shitting on the fact that they're doing another Avengers vs. X-Men thing, because, I mean, I've only been reading comics for, like, a little over 2 years now, 2.5 years, and by God, they've done that the whole time, so I pre-shat on it, but I think it's all Remender's writing it, so it might be awesome anyways.
Yeah. Especially if it's based on the Uncanny Avengers.
If it ties in with the Uncanny somehow, then
it should be fine.
It'll probably end up being really good. It'll be one of those things that I'm like, I can't believe they did this again. And then, one of us will end up buying it anyways, and it'll be good.
Yeah.
We'll eat some words, hopefully.
Hopefully. Enjoy that crow. Still in the X universe, Amazing X-Men number 7. Jason Aaron's run is over. Chris Yost's run has not started yet. So what do we have here? A one-off issue written by the wife of famous artist Stuart Eminem, Catherine Eminem. And it was awesome. It was a fucking shout out to the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon. Amazing X-Men, why not? Spider-Man makes a cameo to team up once more with Firestar and Iceman. So you can get your Saturday morning fucking cartoon cereal bowl out and fucking pour your ass some Lucky Charms and go buy Amazing X-Men number 7, and you will be whisked away back to your childhood youth.
Nice. Daredevil number 3 is good. I'll move on. It was good.
It was good. Nothing else was there.
Yeah, I mean, all I'll say, they continue the story. He's still doing the same shit, and then there was some other stuff that happened, but it's like complete spoiler territory.
Right.
It's not even huge events, but almost anything interesting that happened in it would be a spoiler. I mean, it's great as always. I mean, once again, you know, Mark Waid, Samney, Bobby Rodriguez are really doing a great book. And I've also found, too, interesting, crazy thing that's happened, I've noticed on a couple of my books, like Daredevil, gone up to $4 now, which somehow has become like monthly. Same with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not coming out again until next month. I wonder if this is just a temporary thing where they're catching up, or if these books have just become once a month instead of twice a month, which if that's the case and they're $4, doesn't bother me. But on top of that, Digital Code, been selling them for $1.50. I'm coming out ahead. They raise the price, Muji comes out ahead. You can't beat the Muji. I mean, you can pretty easily, but not on comic book pricing. But over to Amazing Spider-Man number 2, man. Like I said, I was very vocal on here. Not a huge fan of Superior Spider-Man. Another one of those things that as I heard about it seemed to get a little more interesting towards the end. But, as I say, I don't need to, buy 20 issues before it gets hot. Like, I don't need to spend $80 on a story before all of a sudden it becomes, like, really interesting.
Right.
But it's super refreshed, just amazing now that it's back. I mean, it was definitely towards the end of Amazing. It was fine, but it was just, kind of same old. And now this is definitely given the Peter Parker character, completely fresh new stories and new legs. So, really love the first 2 issues of this. Probably as much as I've liked any sort of Dan Slott Spider-Man that I've read.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, that first issue was great. The regular story. This was awesome. Obviously, Peter's dealing with all the crazy stuff. The fact that he owns a big lab. That he supposedly, has all this, knowledge, that he doesn't actually have. The fact that he's got a girlfriend that lives with him that he doesn't know. That he finds out he did it with. And, of course, a bunch and doesn't know. So, he's just kind of balancing all these, new relationships. And then you get an awesome part in this, where finally a little bit is answered, even though I still call the Avengers some real amateurs that they weren't able to figure out that it was Doc Ock. Apparently, Doc Ock just never got found out, despite the fact that there's 800 people in the Marvel Universe that can mind read. Nobody figured it out, but that's a plot hole that I'll just let go. But the Avengers finally show up, and Peter, explains to them exactly what happened. He's like, Doc Ock was in my body, and, I was gone for a few months, and, it was Doc Ock's brain, we switched bodies, and I switched back. It's me, Peter. That's why I was acting crazy. And basically everyone buys it. They're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's why you're being such a dick. So it's good. The story's good. A bunch more stuff happens in it, but, really excited with the new direction and the new stories that are being told in Spider-Man. Actually, there was a time for a while with Spider-Man and even Superior where I dreaded, where I was like, man, I'm spending $8 a month on this, and now I'm very happy. So
that's awesome. Love Spider-Man. Glad it's back to where we wanted it to be. Deadpool number 28. Deadpool's honeymoon in Japan is interrupted by the Yakuza, the Hand, and giant Pokemon-like parade float monsters. What else could you expect? That's all the Marvel I got.
And then we'll jump over to DC, and DC's version of the Deadpool book, Harley Quinn. At least the early version. It hasn't gotten serious yet. It hasn't taken those emotional things, but definitely the humor and everything, the breaking of the third wall and everything is in the same vein. But, and what a surprise. I mean, I'll just jump this because I like Harley Quinn. I like the way the book looks, man. What a surprise, joy to get, every month, man. Such a fun book.
It's a fun comic, and comics should be fun.
It's fun, and it also pushes the barrier. It's not afraid to make some, adult jokes in it.
Oh, it's just very dark humor, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's that version. It's not afraid to be itself. It's not afraid to be like what Harley Quinn has really been for a while. It's just a different costume. I mean, a big outrage over DC, you know, when they, you know, was the fact that, you know, they gave her the costume. It's more like the Arkham game than her old-fashioned costume, and, you know, over-sexualizing her and all that. But I mean, she's generally like made those type of jokes and innuendos and everything, like, you know, outside the animated series. You know, the whole time in the comics, it's just that, you know, she was wearing a different uniform. So they've really brought back, I think, like a lot closer to the Harley Quinn that, you know, people thought they were missing in Suicide Squad. And for me, just really great. It's a really, really fun book. Really finishes out the first arc. Her and the old geese that she's helping, you know, take down all of his former associates and enemies from back in the day. It's a really good storyline. If you haven't been reading it all, basically, Harley Quinn's contacted by a guy, and he's like, you know, I've got all these former comrades that, you know, I need to kill. There are all these bad people living here. You know, I need your help. So she decides to. And it turns out the majority of them are like old folks in old folks' homes that can't do anything, but he's just holding the grudge, like a 60-year grudge. So it's really entertaining seeing her help him out and do that. And then, yeah, it's kind of just the end of the first little arc. So that was good.
Cool. I guess while we're staying in the Bativerse, I could hit Batman Eternal.
Oh, yeah.
Batman Eternal 6 and 7. We got introduced to the Spectre, who is not one of his usual identities, but former Gotham detective, famous from year one, Jim Corrigan. And I thought that was an interesting transition there. And,
yeah, nice.
Then in Batman Eternal number 7, Oswald Cobblepot and his gang war continues. And my phone's going crazy up there, but my back's fucked up, so it's going to take me a minute
to
get
yours
to it.
for once.
But, hey, it's on vibrate. All you can hear it go, but yeah, Oswald Cobblepot is trying to actually help Batman keep Falcone from taking over, so good shit all the way around there.
Nice. I'll jump over to, I guess, some soup books. Got 3 of these for 2 weeks. Superman Doomed. Did get Superman Doomed one shot, which was just basically a big fight between Superman and Doomsday, and you get all great job in Action Comics number 31, Greg Pak. I mean, it just basically explains everything the first couple pages that happened in Superman Doomed one shot. So that's awesome. Heard a little confusing. I heard on the internet some people didn't pick up Action Comics and had to go back and get it or search it out because you had Superman Doomed, which is the one shot, and then this is Chapter 1, Infected of Superman Doomed. A lot of people thought that the one shot was just Chapter 1 and went straight to Superman and Wonder Woman. If you did that, they were like, dude, what the fuck? A lot of shit has happened. But man, I've really liked this so far.
Those are excellent.
It's on a giant event. It goes through next month, I believe. Action, Superman and Wonder Woman. I think there's 3 more. There's Superman next week. And then next month, Action Detective, and then I think there's a Doom Part 2 one-shot that I'll probably actually have to pick up to get the continuation of the story. So it's not a giant story. It's happening over the course of just a few weeks, which is nice. It's Oppo Forever Evil. It's the way to go with it. But yeah, I really like it so far, man. It's an introduction to Doomsday into the New 52. You know, they did a great job last year on Villains Month. You know, they made where, you know, Doomsday was just... They turned him into where in Metropolis, Doomsday was just kind of like a fairy tale to like kind of scare your kids, you know, at night. You know, it's like you better not do this or Doomsday will be coming. And they changed him up. And it's really, the story, the cool thing is because with Doomsday, there's only so much you can do because he's just almost, you know, like an unstoppable force. He's just coming to fight. He's not like a dude or anything. As the story is really just about Clark and his relationship so far in these books with like Superman and Batman and Lois and, you know, just all of his people. So Doomsday's the backdrop, but it's just really, you know, Clark struggling with his powers, which is, you know, always a good story, and some new powers. You know, kind of the gimmick of this is Doomsday is, you know, the Doomsday virus has kind of got into his body, so even though he defeated Doomsday, he's been taken over a little bit, so he's having to fight from, you know, becoming like a crazy monster. And the first 2 are, you know, you just have the different things in Action. You know, you get Lana dealing with it, and Superman and Wonder Woman is. And then in Batman Superman, both Batman and Wonder Woman are. And in Batman Superman, actually pretty awesome. I've heard this book's gotten better. I just don't need to add any more books. I heard once it got done with that one little thing, they went back. Like the second arc after the one that I dropped it on has been pretty good. Has the way it works. But in this one, it's pretty great. Crypto, Wonder Woman, and Batman go into the Phantom Zone to figure out like what's behind all this, and the Phantom Zone's all fucked up because Doomsday came through and like ravaged it, so it's not, the properties aren't exactly the same as it always is, and so they end up having to like, get the help of some villains in there to do it. And apparently Steel's been introduced and has been in Batman Superman because Steel is on the outside, and Batman of course tells him, it's like if things, you're hooked up, you can see what's going on in there. If things get too crazy, do what Clark would do or do what I would do. He's like, you trap us in there, so it's pretty awesome. They go in there and you get to see you get to see what I'm talking about. You get to see Batman in the Phantom Zone. It's enough to buy the damn book.
Good enough for me. Before we get to the Forever Evil stuff, just had 2 other books. Smallville, Lantern #2, introduces Jon Stewart to the Smallville universe and continues the awesome story that they've done there with Clark as the Lantern, and also introduces Sinestro.
Yeah, at some point when I get done with all the crap I got to read, because I still got a decent little stack, I have to get back, man. Smallville has been a huge surprise.
Yeah, it's been a
that's
definitely
kept good quality for this long.
Definitely. And then Justice League United #1, second issue, a lot better than the first one. I didn't hate the first one, but it really did. It kind of made me weary of keeping it. But, I said I'd stay on through the first arc at least. And, if it continues at this pace, I'll totally be down for it.
Nice.
And then JLA #14, which was the book that Justice League United turned into, beginning of the Forever Evil tie-ins. This was just basically post-Forever Evil. Like, the events that happen, the team goes their separate ways, and the ones that stay make up Justice League United. And so that they go to Canada because they disband them. They say they can't be a team, and they say, well, we're going to create our
Yeah,
own
I mean, it's a book that, because it should have come out, it would have come out 2 months ago, but it would have spoiled the end of Forever Evil, so that's why it came out all weird. Same with this Justice League pushback. This Justice League #30 came out. It's a little weird. It's post Forever Evil, so it is a little bit weird, but we'll talk about Forever Evil in a second. But basically, it's just what you kind of expect. You saw in the solicits and the big previews, it's Luthor and Captain Cold in the Justice League. You basically get to see how it comes to pass, kind of the argument for Luthor being a part of the Justice League. And, as post Forever Evil, the media has deemed Luthor the hero of the event. And because Luthor has a bunch of money, he ends up building a new facility for the Justice League. It's actually exactly on the opposite side of the earth as the Watchtower was, but it's just like the specs of the Watchtower, a new hangout. He brings Captain Cold into the mix as a new guy on the team, and a lot of the issues, just the argument between where Superman obviously is like, no, fuck no, it's, there's no way. And then you've got, of course, clear-headed thinking Batman. Luther's making all the points of like, well, the public sees me as a hero, and right now there's still a bunch of villains out there on the loose that, I have ties to that I can help you get. It's like, and isn't it just important for the people to like think that they're safe? And, and of course Clark's like, no way. But then Bruce, with level head's like, yeah, I don't trust him, but that makes sense. Like, it probably does make sense for us to let him in on it.
In this, there's a couple of things he does that lead you to believe that he may have changed his tune, and that they may be actually running with this Lex Luthor as a good guy thing, which is quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, I think it'll probably, without reading, I haven't read that yet, but I'm guessing they probably will make him a good guy for like a decent bit of time. And then when he eventually turns, he'll turn hardcore, and then you'll have to see the rest of everybody, apologizing to Superman, like, sorry we ever, went against your judgment. But it does seem like he's going to have at least a nice little lengthy run as a babyface.
Yeah, I think so. Then on to the pick of the week.
Yes.
On to the pick of the week. Forever Evil, #7. We waited long enough for this to come out, but it did.
It's been a long time.
It was actually worth the wait. Really awesome issue. So many major things that impact the DC Universe overall happened. Not going to spoil those for you. I will say there was a lot of deaths. There was a lot of bloodshed. There was a lot of craziness of guys switching sides and flip-flopping. There was an introduction of a couple of new characters making their first New 52 appearance, including 2
major characters in DC continuity that have not appeared yet in the New 52. So,
Nice.
pretty fucking eventful and awesome finale to this whole war with the crime syndicate, and a lot of loose ends that they left open on purpose. So, while the majority of the crime syndicate goes down, not all of them do, and you
Yeah.
find out what happens there too. So that's pretty interesting.
Nice. Well, that's it. We'll be back next week. We'll have a review, or kind of our thoughts on this X-Men movie we're going to see tonight.
That's the official GYP review, son.
Yeah, and we'll have another shitload of pulls. So, don't get too crazy like we have. You know, stay within your budget, but still, get your pulls.